Welcome back, comic book fans. It's the first Saturday of July, and we're diving into another Back in the Day countdown. Today, we're cracking open the July 1994 issue of Wizard Magazine to bring you the Hot 10 Comics list from 30 years ago. Whether you're a seasoned collector or new to the game, this blast from the past is sure to make you want to dust off your flannel, binge watch the first season of Friends, and maybe even head out to your LCS for some new additions to your PC. Let's get started. Diving into the Hot 10, we find what is the most relevant issue today on the entire list, Wolverine number 75. We're going to put a spoiler warning here, right out of the gate. Sorry about that, but spoilers. The climax of X-Men 97's final episode resurrected a couple of the 90s hottest X-Men books, namely X-Men 25 and Wolverine number 75, as Wolverine experienced the ultimate finishing move from Magneto when the latter exorcised all of the adamantium from Logan's skeleton. Wizard says the elder statesman of this month's top 10, Wolverine 75, is still going strong nearly 8 months after its release. We've told just about everything we can about this book since it took up residence here back in Wizard number 29, 7 months ago. So let's tell it again. When word spread that something big was happening to Wolvie in X-Men 25, it was taken with a grain of salt. What happened was our boy Logan got all of his adamantium sucked out. Wolverine 75 deals with his fight for life after said happening, and his discovery he has claws made of normal bone where his metal claws used to be. How's that for a continuity crapper? This November 1993 issue was written by G.I. Joe legend Larry Hama with art courtesy of Adam Kubert. At the time, Wolverine 75 was clocking in at $9 for a mint copy, and I'm sorry to report that in the almost 31 years that have passed since it's released, there hasn't been a lot of movement value-wise. A couple of copies managed to squeak out $15 and $20 sales recently, but this book still regularly sells for $6 to $12 in most cases. Another November 1993 book follows in the number 9 spot as we take a look at Green Lantern number 47. All these years later, you may be looking back and thinking to yourself, why on earth was this run filler issue on the Hot 10? Well, let's see what Wizard says on the subject. Right before characterization was thrown to the wind in the 3-issue Emerald Twilight storyline, and right after the much sought-after reign of the Superman tie-in, Green Lantern 47 kinda snuck into the comic shelves with nary a sound. It disappeared even more quickly and quietly. With all the hoopla surrounding the new GL, who, by the way, is a pretty darn cool replacement, the book is the best that it's been in years. Green Lantern has become pretty popular. Now, fans are starving for key back issues, and GL 47 just wasn't ordered heavily, so boom, done deal. The story, which teams old pre-crisis buds Green Arrow and Green Lantern, is a mite disappointing though. The creative team for Green Lantern 47 consisted of writer Gerald Jones and artist Scott Collins, but unfortunately, their tale was not one that would withstand the test of time. At the time the Hot 10 was published, Wizard valued Green Lantern 47 at $7.50 for a near-mint copy. In today's world, you're much more likely to find this book wallowing in a discount bin. Whether that's $1, $2, or $3 per book is hard to say, but I hope you didn't plan to retire off of your hoard of Green Lantern 47s. Only a few individual sales are reporting on eBay in recent months, the most recent for $5, and then a financially reckless $7.98 plus $5.99 shipping purchase of a self-described fine copy. I'm going to assume that that was a purchase of convenience over value. The number 8 book boasts a cover that's not for the squeamish. Haunting the number 8 spot is Harris Comics' Vengeance of Vampirella number 1. It wouldn't have been a proper 90s list without at least one foil cover to talk about. I know we've already discussed a book with a hologram on it, but as cool as that is, it's no foil cover. Wizard says, the last of our bad girl triumvirate, Vengeance of Vampirella features the best known and, dare we say, oldest bad girl in comics. Like the other 2 bad girl books in this top 10, this book hit the stands and did a rapid disappearing act. Vampy publisher Harris Comics had to go to a second printing. The cover is a stunning wraparound foil job with Vampy, as her longtime fans call her, awash in a sea of blood. Rendered by hot art tandem Joe Enhancedis Casada and Jimmy Yahump Palmiotti. Another Bad Girl book with secondary market muscle, Vengeance of Vampirella is proof that in comics, hot babes are indeed hot. Wizard nails it by pointing out the main selling point of the book, the fantastic Joey Q and Jimmy Palmiotti cover. The interior story was written by Tom Snigoski and was drawn by Buzz. Wizard valued the issue at $3.50 at the time it was on the Hot 10, a whole 55 cents above its cover price. Recently, sales for Vengeance of Vampirella #1 have been a little all over the place, with auction sales providing buyers with great prices, like a May 12th sale for just $3.25, while fixed price sales have seen results up to $15 for multiple copies. Reigning over the #7 spot is the origin story of one of the 90s biggest small press characters, Lady Death, in Lady Death #1. Also known as Lady Death The Reckoning #1, this January 1994 issue was a mainstay for most hot lists in the mid-90s. After debuting in 1991's Evil Ernie #1 and starring in the remainder of that first series, Lady Death quickly found her way into her own title. Wizard says, "Quite the stunning cover. That's one of the reasons why this book did so well. You can't help but notice this beaut sitting on the shelf, and when you pick it up, which most people did, this baby sold out, and you thumb through it, you'll marvel at the sight of an extremely healthy female embodiment of death walking around in tiny underwear." Fans, mostly guys we imagine, went nuts, and boom, another hot Bad Girl book was born. Once you get past the cover and interior cheesecake shots, it's actually not a bad story. It reveals the origin of Lady Death, who made her debut in the pages of Evil Ernie, and let's just say it's not a happy story. Lady Death 1 carries over the same creative team from Evil Ernie, and writer and creator Brian Pulido on the script, and artist Stephen Hughes on the cover and interior art. Hughes' art, coupled with the chromium cover, made Lady Death one of the more eye-grabbing covers on the rack at the time. This book had staying power as well. I remember it continuing to be prominently featured when I first started buying Wizards as a kid, over a year after this particular issue was released. Something about Lady Death appealed to my preteen self. I'm really not sure what it was though. At the time, Wizard valued Lady Death #1 at $14, and the value has remained somewhat consistent over the last 30 years. Recent sales reflect multiple complete sets of issues 1 through 3 selling for $20, multiple copies of #1 selling for $12 to $20, and even a surprising number of higher dollar fixed price sales for issue 1 in the $30 to $40 range. Those sales definitely appear to be at a premium, and I have no doubt that you'll be able to find a copy for less than that with just a little bit of patience. The #6 book had Wizard so amped up, filled with so much excitement, that they couldn't even be bothered to tell you how much this hot book was selling for in this particular issue of the magazine. Missing from the price guide, but not the Hot 10, our #6 book is She #1. Wizard says, "We appear to be witnessing the dawn of the hot-looking Bad Girl comics. It seemed that this once underground segment of the collecting community has come above ground, giving some of the latest Bad Girl books large secondary market presence." See the next 2 listings. For clarity, we're starting at the bottom of the list and working our way to the top. Wizard thought we were going to start at #1 and go to #10, but that's not how you count down. She, The Way of the Warrior #1 is the latest comic to take advantage of this phenomenon. She is Anna Ishikawa, a woman who's got superior fighting skills in ancient Oriental philosophy, as well as the requisite killer bod, on her side in her battle against ancient evil forces. The first issue of this title has met with amazing success, as the entire 50,000 plus print run was snapped up mere days after its release. Created by Billy Tucci, she made her first appearance in 1993's Razor Annual from London Knight Publishing. After a few appearances here and there, she landed her own book over at Crusades Comics with the March 1994 She, The Way of the Warrior #1. Luckily for us though, I have the next issue of Wizard in the PC, and I can confirm that the following month, in August of 1994, Wizard valued this book at $2.50. Recent sales suggest that this one has a current value in the $10 to $12 range based off of a pair of fixed price sales in the last couple of weeks, but the most recent sale, which is just a few days old, was actually an auction, and a copy sold for just $1 plus $4.38 shipping. Long story short, she may be a bad girl, but she's fairly easy on your wallet. Hanging on to the top half of the list is the 90s own dynamic duo of dysfunction, Beavis and Butthead, with Beavis and Butthead #1. Yes, dear viewers, the 90s were a weird and wild time where Marvel Comics partnered with MTV Misfits Beavis and Butthead for 28 issues of debauchery. Wizard says, fueled by their monstrously popular MTV show, Beavis and Butthead have definitely made their mark on the comic book scene. Like the Ren and Stimpy show #1, geez, that thing is still selling like steroids in a locker room. Beavis and Butthead #1 was underordered, and fans gobbled up this ish in no time flat. This book's contents are sure to appeal to B&B fans, since the two hoodlums do their usual dirty deeds. We won't go into them in detail here. Instead of taking shots at music videos, however, they tear apart crappy comic books, which are pretty darn easy to find. Not only do Beavis and Butthead make their first comic book appearances in this issue, Daria, another MTV staple, debuts in this issue as well. Handling the creative duties for this issue were writer Mike Lackey and artist Rick Parker, who would stick with the title for its entire run. At the time, this issue was booking for $5, and following a recent bump in value when the series was brought back on Comedy Central, Beavis and Butthead #1 was recently going for upwards of $15 on average. Recent sales appear to average out closer to $10 at the moment, which is a small price to pay for a hot, sticky dose of 90s nostalgia. It's only fitting that one of the 90s hottest miniseries would make an appearance on this Hot 10. Featuring a cover appearance from the X-Men's Warren Worthington III, otherwise known as the Angel, we have Marvel's #2. Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross's Marvel's miniseries was the talk of 1994. Wizard says, one of those rare prestige format, aka expensive books, to garner secondary market attention, Marvel's #2 has a lot of things going for it. First, the cover sported a high price, usually resulting in low orders. Second, its pages had the awesome painted artwork of Alex Ross. Third, its story featured an early adventure of the X-Men, the hottest comic characters on the planet these days. Lastly, it was a #2 issue, and we've noticed lately that #2s have been ordered in far fewer quantities than their more glamorous #1 counterparts. All in all, it makes for quite a solid top 10 book. The series would run for a total of 4 issues, and then later in the year, it would feature a 0 issue that followed the Prime series, and it had a fantastic Spider-Man vs. the Green Goblin cover, so you know I'm a fan. At the time, Marvel's #2 was valued at $10 in the Wizard price guide. Recent sales for Marvel's #2 have been in the area of $10 to $12 for the individual issue, but complete sets of the series can be had for as little as $15 to $20. Given the haircut that a lot of modern books have taken in recent years, that's not too bad. Marvel's is a stunning visual experience, and while its significance may not be reflected in its value, we have it to thank for the surge in realism that came to comic book art in its wake. When you've been making a living drawing a book full of young people with cool powers for somebody else, and then you and your buddies decide to go to work for yourselves, it's only natural to just start your own book where you tell the story of a bunch of young people with cool powers, right? Well, in the #3 spot, we coincidentally have just that situation with Gen 13 #2. Wizard says, okay, you already know a whole bunch about Gen 13, but here's some more tasty info. To avoid any possible legal hassles with Marvel and their upcoming Generation X title, Jim Lee changed the name of Gen X to Gen 13, as in the 13th generation of Americans. It's still a neat name. To help publicize the much-delayed launch of the title, a Gen 13 1/2 comic was featured in Wizard 30, hey, that's us, which whetted fans' appetites and helped land Gen 13 #1 and #2 here on the top 10 hottest comics chart, spoiler alert. With underordering on the first 2 issues and the way hot Pit appearing in the third, this series kicked butt. Lee did it the smart way though. He handed off the art duties to a young up-and-comer named J. Scott Campbell, who draws really appealing female characters, just like Caitlin Fairchild, who tended to steal the spotlight of most of the early issues of Gen 13. This March 1994 issue hails from Image Comics' early days, which doesn't typically bode well for the value of such books. At the time, Wizard valued Gen 13 number 2 at $3, a whole 20% more than its cover price when it was released just months earlier. Unsurprisingly, it's pretty much still there. Recent sales on eBay are mostly all at $3 plus shipping, but I have no doubt that you're going to find this book in $1 bins at your local comic book show or a neighborhood comic shop. Let's keep the Gen 13 train rolling and talk about the number 2 book on the Hot 10, Gen 13 number 1. Wizard says Gen 13 is another one of those books for which demand far exceeded supply. We'll tell you why. The title was first introduced as Gen X via ads that ran last spring, back in the pages of Wizard 23. And fans eagerly anticipated the book. Unforeseen circumstances resulted in it being resolicited last fall as Gen 13. Retailers were feeling the bite from the overabundance of product number 1s last spring and summer, and when they were given the chance to reorder the issue, they penciled in significantly fewer numbers. The fan community, however, never forgot this book and turned out in droves to buy it, hence the immediate and continued secondary market action on this book. As the hobby has contracted over the years, that undersupply Wizard mentioned has actually turned into an oversupply as comic collections loaded with Image and other early 90s issues from the pre-comic crash era have flooded into a dwindling number of comic shops and comic resellers. It's not all doom and gloom for Gen 13 1 though. At the time the Hot 10 list went to print, the value of Gen 13 number 1 was just $4.50, which is still a pretty decent bounce for a book that had only been out for a couple of months and carried a cover price of $2.50. Now, fast forward 30 years to today, and you're most likely going to have to pony up $10 to $15 for a copy of this one. 1994 was a year packed with unforgettable moments. Picture this. Grunge ruled the airwaves. Forrest Gump and The Lion King reigned in theaters, and the internet was just beginning to change our world forever. Let's take a quick trip back to the days of flannel shirts, beepers, and the early days of the World Wide Web. Top TV shows included Seinfeld, ER, and Home Improvement, while a new show on NBC called Friends debuted. Ace of Base, All for One, and Boyz II Men had the top songs of the year, while the world was left reeling from the sudden loss of Kurt Cobain. Popular video games included Donkey Kong Country, Earthbound, and Sonic the Hedgehog 3, while Bagel Bites, Capri Sun, and Arizona iced tea were some of the hot grocery items of the year. In June 1994, there were only 2,738 websites on the entire internet, with new additions for the year including whitehouse.gov, Pizza Hut, where people in Santa Cruz, California became the first to be able to order a pizza over the web, and Yahoo also launched. In sadder news, we had to say goodbye to Jack Kirby, John Candy, and Batman 66's Cesar Romero. Topping the Hot 10 for July 1994 is Prophet number 4's Stephen Platt variant. Wizard says, "How big do you think Prophet is if the head of the guy standing in front of him is smaller than one of Prophet's abdominal muscles?" Pretty big. Makes you wonder how big his toilet seat is. Anyway, this here's the special variant Prophet number 4 cover, which Extreme Studios shipped in limited amounts, less than 20% of the entire run, which drove the back issue market into a feeding frenzy, which resulted in this little gem being king of the top 10 hill for 3 months straight. In case just having a variant cover wasn't enough to light a fire beneath collectors' butts, Extreme had that Stephen Platt fella do the variant, which was like throwing gasoline on a fire. What better way to feature a Rob Liefeld book than to cover it in the art of another artist such as 90s Wonder Boy Stephen Platt? While the reduced print run may have been sufficient to build hype for the issue at the time, it hasn't gone anywhere since. Wizard gave this book a fair market value of $15 back in 1994, and here in 2024, it continues to take up residence at the $15 price point, which isn't necessarily a bad thing when you compare it to the fate some Hot 10 books have suffered. I hope you enjoyed our trip back to July 1994 for this episode of the Back in the Day Top 10 Countdown. This is a monthly series, and my goal is to premiere a new episode the first Saturday of each month. If you're not subscribed to the channel, be sure to click subscribe to ensure you never miss an episode of the Back in the Day Top 10 Countdown and all of my other videos. Collect responsibly, and I'll see you in the next video.